I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the desk here on PlayVS. My name is Perino. I am joined by Mike the Doctor. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good today. I'm excited to be back on the desk with PlayVS. As always, it is a blast to be here and a blast to showcase the two teams that we have coming up for you today. We're going to have Van Buren High School facing off against the Greenwood High School as well. The two teams are stacked and ready to go, and I am super excited to be here.
Absolutely. This is the Arkansas League of Legends state final. These two teams have battled it out to get this far, but we just saw here previously Van Buren High School already taking a W just a moment ago with their Rocket League team, so they will be looking to do the double with their League of Legends team here as well, but in their way is Greenwood High School. They are a previous PlayVS champion. They won it in spring of 2019. And they are here and they're ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, coming off the season 5-3, really strong showing there. Looking to come through the bracket today and make sure that they are coming away grand champions. But like you said, the Van Buren High School is also looking pretty strong. Their league season was 6-0. So equally matching there in, stats-wise, they're also looking to, take on the championships for themselves a little bit, make sure that, they get the glory, but they do have this one best of three in front of them before they can do so.
Yes, it will all come down to this grand final here as we take a look at that bracket. A little bit of, that's what we're looking for. A little bit of craziness going on in the bracket. It wasn't our 1 or 2 seed coming through here. You can see Van Buren, coming through that middle bracket there, taking down CSD Vive, Doran's dad. Great name for a team, by the way. And
I was just thinking that myself.
Amazing name. And Greenwood, on the opposite side there, taking down Mav Gamers in Farmington to reach this point. So yeah, it's been a journey for these teams, and now it's all down to this one best of three. The more that we've worked and, watched these teams, throughout the different states here on PlayVS, the more that we've seen them play, the more excited I get, because it is always action-packed. It is always exciting. You never know what you're going to get. And both teams just have absolutely everything to play for.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we can never really know what to expect, as we're heading into draft phase time and time again. We keep talking about what we're expecting to see picked and banned away and, what we're expecting the two teams to pick up. And sometimes they just throw us for a complete loop. We'll go through their stats and be like, oh, yeah, we can, think about this type of game plan. And then they just come lights out and come in with something else. And we're like, oh, okay, I mean, that works, and they take away victories and losses as they come, but the teams have really prepared for this type of bracket, this type of showcase, and they're really coming out swinging and making sure that they are putting everything on the line.
Yes, it is absolutely everything to play for, and before we get started with our draft, we'll have that coming up in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about each roster individually. Who are some players to look out for? I'm going to look the way of Van Buren first. And when I look at the player breakdown here, the player that stands out to me, Antran in that jungle. 17, 3, and 15 in the regular season. Gold per minute, 502, leads the team, both in KDA and gold per minute. That jungle position, of course, crucial for any team to try and win the title.
Yeah, I mean, jungle right now, super impactful. We're seeing lots of high-tempo junglers coming out of the bushes. We can see that Antran's most played champion is that Zac. potential engage from pretty much anywhere on the map, it feels like, having that elastic slingshot throwing you in, but just high tempo is the name of the game right now. We're constantly seeing junglers come out of the draft phase with something that can make moves on the map, impact the lanes very quickly and very hard, versus, you know, the old style of just farming style jungles. We have seen a couple here and there that really want to prioritize that, but most of the time these teams are picking for something for the junglers that let them run around the map, help out their laners, and try and get there before the opponent can do the exact same thing. So when you see stats like that on a jungler, definitely makes sense. It's totally expected to have high stat junglers because of the way the meta is falling right now.
But junglers aren't the only ones racking up the stats here on PlayVS as we jump on to the team on the other side of the rift here, Greenwood High School. I'm going through again and looking, and I see Profit in the mid lane. 23, 6, and 13 KDA. Average takedown percentage, 79%. 79% of all takedowns in some way involve one true Profit. Again, that gold per minute coming in at just over 500. Mid lane, well, it's the middle lane. It's the showcase lane, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about jungle participation, things like that, you almost always have to loop it back to the mid lane. You know, mid jungle synergy is something that can never be overstated in League of Legends. You know, so many professional teams are built around this style of gameplay where your jungler helps your mid laner and vice versa, because of how much, like you said, the mid lane is, it's right down the middle. It can go anywhere. You know, you can roam down to the bottom side, help your jungler invade, roam top side. And it's something that, you know, really opens up the map if you have a strong lane. If your mid laner wins and pushes out that tower and, you know, takes control of the lane, they now have free reign to move around the map. And so when you have a strong mid laner, you have a strong team.
Yes, you do. And you can see the first ban actually for Van Buren High School is going to be Zoe, already looking to perhaps target Greenwood's mid lane there. You know, removing that Zoe seems like a strong move.
Zoe, a champion that's been strong pretty much forever. You know, high damage, high CC, really difficult to get a hold on sometimes. Can really catch people out. I think it's been almost 100% banned throughout these last couple of weeks here in PlayVS playoffs. Really, really strong and worthwhile to get rid of. But looking at the rest of these bans, equally strong. Tarek, Leona, Jarvan, Galio, Yumi, absolute monsters of champions. 100% ban those away. Those are definitely just the teams going, these are strong picks and everybody can play them. We just don't want to deal with them. So I am curious to see what the first pick comes out. It's Ornn. It's my favorite champion. How many times do I get to talk about this champion? It seems like every time we're here, it's the Ornn show. And finally now, the team goes out of their way, first picks it, and they're going to get countered by a Volibear? Oh no.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, you know, followed up, you know, with the Caitlyn pick there as well. Volibear's in an interesting spot, right? You know, because that rework is imminent. You know, Volibear's been sort of flexed around in different spots. Very, very intriguing to see where the League Alpha Dogs decide to go with that one, as we see now Echo and Veigar picked up by Van Buren.
So the Volibear was 100% a top lane pick. Even before seeing the Nunu, I could have guessed. I knew it was going to go there. It's actually super strong into the Ornn matchup. You know, a lot of times we see people get caught in the Ornn matchup because of his guaranteed knockup on his Q. You know, you Q the minions, then, you know, the opponent comes in to try and farm a little bit. Boom, knockup into Brittle, into lots of damage of potentially going down. The Volibear, however, is able to interrupt that with his Triumphant Roar. In about a week, won't be able to do that anymore, but it is one of the strengths that the pick has currently. So you can interrupt that charge, you no longer get knocked up, and you then are on the offensive for that engagement. And it does look like Greenwood is following it up with some really strong picks as well. The Caitlyn's something that's super strong right now. Nunu is definitely more of a comfort pick, not something we've seen a lot of, not something I expect to see a lot of. It does kind of play the annoying role of, you know, really good at lane ganks, really good at taking objectives. You know, it has an attack speed boost, which will be good for both Caitlyn and the Volibear, but overall, not the strongest jungle champion at the moment.
Nunu perhaps literally trying to snowball your way into the victory, as we see Van Buren's bot lane come out now. That is Rakan and Ezreal. And Ezreal is a really, really strong champion right now. It's something that I've seen a lot of in solo queue already. Ezreal, with his, dash, his mobility, getting those cues out left, right, and center, should be a very interesting bot lane, especially with Rakan's engage.
Yeah, Ezreal, super strong pick, really high win rate. So currently both in solo queue and competitive play. Interesting that when you target the 80 carries for bans, you go with the PlayVS Ashe. Ashe is also super strong. We've seen both her build paths currently, but I think overall, when you look at the rest of the team already, Nunu, Caitlyn, Volibear, I definitely think the Ezreal would potentially be more with the ban. We're going to have to see if this can backfire onto Greenwood, but I am super curious about their team composition right now. I honestly don't know where anybody's going. It could be like... all right, I guess the production team knows better than I do. We're going to get Maokai top lane, Nunu jungle to be expected, Volibear mid, which is super curious to me, and then Kate Morgana bot lane, which is super duper strong.
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, as those last picks came out, I thought maybe we were going to see a Volibear support. That's something I've seen on occasion. It's not common, but it exists. Volibear mid, I actually don't know if I've ever seen it. I have to say.
No, I definitely seen Volibear support quite a bit. I've played Volibear support in my day, but they picked it before they knew the opponent's mid laner, technically, because they picked it first rotation, whereas Van Buren picked up the Vigar second rotation, and definitely a steal away from Prophet there, as it was his #1 champion played. Something you do have to be aware of, though, is when you pick away your opponent's #1 pick, they know what gives that pick trouble. Like, if you're a one-trick pony and you've played the same champion for 2,000 games, you know intricately what annoys you and what you hate playing against. And so Prophet, largely aware of what Vigar's problems can be, they pick a high-tempo engage style tanky mid laner that doesn't build a lot of ability power, so it's just up to Exquisite to farm his ability power by just landing his abilities as much as possible. But I've never seen a Volibear mid, so I'm super interested to see how that lane plays out. And Greenwood is just uber duper tanky. Like, holy moly, do they have tanks on tanks on tanks?
Yes, and to that point, now you're also looking at your 80 carry, right, Devoid, when you have this massive front line, 3 big boys going out, and trying to lead these team fights. Where does the damage come from? Well, it's got to come from behind in that Caitlyn. She does have quite a bit of range on her. She's going to be helped, of course, by that Morgana as well with the CC. So, yeah, this is a very, very intriguing matchup across the board. I can't wait to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, Devoid on the Caitlyn's going to be super pivotal. Prophet will do some damage. Volibear does kind of hurt quite a bit, but again, largely a tank. Exquisite, though, has so much control of the objectives and just the game itself due to the event horizon. There is no engage capable from Greenwood as long as the event horizon is standing. And so between that, the Echo Parallel Convergence, the Ornhorn, lots of disengage available there to really stall out Greenwood's advance. So once these objective fights start happening, the Ornhorn comes out, try to potential engage. Greenwood may think they have now their turn to push buttons, and then Exquisitive is just going to be able to drop that cage down, lock up somebody, maybe just prevent the engage, and that's going to give Slick and Echo really the initiative to just go ham. Like, they're going to be able to just push every button on the keyboard at that point, light up whoever is in that event horizon, and hopefully take them down and really open up the objective fight from there on out.
Yeah, should be very, very exciting as we are getting this game underway in just a moment, making sure everything is all set and ready to go. And yeah, I don't know, game ones are always so dynamic and interesting. We talk about it a lot here where, you might try some things that are non-standard, some things that you might not always do. The Volibear pick in mid is certainly one of those things. It's game one, just see what works and what doesn't, and if it doesn't work, okay, well, then you have 2 games to fix it. If it does, then great, you're on match point.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a throwaway game. We've talked about whether it being game 1 or game 3, the game where you really want to just spend all your, creativity points. And so what you decide to do with that game 1 or that game 3 is you're really staking, no real stakes on it, because you're like, all right, we can play some silly things game 1, focus on, what comes afterwards, and, go from there. So if they play just all out, ridiculous picks game 1 and they work, then it's up to your opponent to adjust for game 2. You can shoot for that same exact style without having to worry about too much, and then let the opponents adjust. Whereas if it doesn't work game 1, you just go back to normal play. You don't have to adjust anything because you already know how to play normal. You just do it.
Yes, I sorry. So many different things can go so many different ways here. I want to take a deeper dive perhaps into this bot lane as well, at least in the laning phase. Morgana Caitlyn obviously super strong, but you have this Rakan Ezreal. How do you try and stop and shut down the CC from Morgana? You have Caitlyn's W as well with her traps. How do you work around that, try and get those successful trades and those good engagements?
With this composition or with these two lanes, you probably don't. It's just so difficult because anytime the Rakan goes aggressively, the Morgana should have the binding available. Like, I don't think Morgana should spend this lane trying to fish for bindings. Save them for the counter engage, because you are just going to annihilate Rakan. He is not tanky whatsoever. Yes, he does have that shield that regens every now and then, but next to none when it comes to tank stats. So what you do is you let the Ezreal farm. Your Caitlyn's going to farm at the same pace with them. They both spike pretty hard at 2 items. You just have the beefier front line, so you can, offer up, them as meat shields for the Ezreal, whereas the Caitlyn is just going to chunk through anybody that tries to frontline for Van Buren. So you play aggressively as the Morgana Caitlyn do, and for Slick and Impact to try and survive, they just need to, that's literally what they need to do. They just need to survive. Get the Ezreal as much farm as possible. Wait for your jungler to come down before potential engage, because the Morgana's just going to blow you up. She has so much control of that lane. The Dark Binding and the Black Shield just completely negate the Rakan's engage. And so once that happens, it's really tough, because if you go down too many times early in the lane, Caitlyn is just going to be so uber duper big that she's going to run right through the rest of the lane, headshotting the towers, blowing up those plates, and it's just going to become really difficult for Ezreal to hold the lane at all. Whereas if you play a much safer Ezreal Rakan lane, just focus on farming and not worry too much about being the aggressor and just dodging bindings and traps, then you can, farm to your mid game, get your 2-item spike, and hope that, the rest of the team can come together by these objective fights.
Well, we'll see how it all shakes out here, as we're going to see Greenwood on the red side jumping through for an invade in the jungle here. It is spotted out by the Rakan, so they knew it was coming, and Greenwood will say, no thanks, we're good, we're just going to turn around and head back home.
Yeah, they get that deep ward onto the opposing Raptor camp there, so they know that he's either going to start there or potentially, roam there eventually. It does get pinged out, so it does look like the Van Buren jungler is going to run topside and start up there and hopefully clear all that out and get to the chickens after the ward times out.
Bit of a disconnect here, but no worries. We'll get them back in the game soon, I promise.
There we go.
Just like that. Oh, just kidding. Some minor technical difficulties here, just trying to make sure that everybody is, in the lobby and has a fair crack at this game 1 here. And invades can be such hit or miss plays, right? When it works out, you feel great, you get that early pick, that early advantage. But if you get caught out, and if it's spotted and you get re-aggressed upon, it can quickly turn on its head. Greenwood electing there, once they saw that they were caught out, just deciding, you know what, we're good. They get the ward. Okay, let's just play it safe from here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to over aggress. I was talking about how problematic the Morgana can be for the Rakan, but if you all run in there and get collapsed upon, there is enough CC there to really, give you a headache. You got the Event Horizon. The Echo typically starts Event Horizon as well. No, that's not. That's Fragash. Parallel convergence was the word I was looking for. And so, yes, Exquisitive 100% doesn't want to start on the Event Horizon. But hey, if you can get some summoner spells or some takedowns, it might be worth it. But it's still something you need to think about, right? Like, there are players that you will find in solo queue that will 100% sacrifice their level 1 to try and counter the invade and get your team the advantage.
It's all about trying to put your team ahead in the best way possible here as we get it back underway. You can see already Exquisitive, trying to deal with this Volibear matchup in mid lane, and it's just such intriguing, right? Because it's not often you see a Vigar against the Volley in a lane, and what do you do to try and counter it?
Yeah, I mean, so I misspoke earlier. This is the new Volibear. So it does have, a different feel than what we've previously known. And so, we do get the slow, the big stun smash, the shield. He's definitely going to be a terror in the middle lane, much more so than I predicted he was going to be. But, this is a new matchup. This is essentially a new champion, if you want to think about it that way. And so these players have only had like 12 hours or so with the champion. The patch came out yesterday. And so I am just... I don't know. I don't know how Exquisitive is going to be prepared for this particular matchup. Because for a fact they planned on stealing the Vigar away from Prophet. And so... did they plan for new Volibear in this particular matchup? Did they expect Prophet to be able to pick mid lane Volibear? No, I don't think they did. I just don't see that as possible.
I will be very truthful in saying I don't know too much about new Volibear, so I'm glad that it's not me in the mid lane, right? Having to deal with that. And it's just so intriguing. We take a look topside here as well. Kel doing a good job, I think, right now of just getting these trades in. And this could be problematic here for Absolute, just tanking that damage, trying to get away from these minions, and he's going to be very, very low in that top lane.
And he's got this just massive wave, so he's not able to try and recall yet either. Just kind of let the snowball run away. Didn't want to play too hard. But, I mean, that's something that is definitely very worrying about the potential Nunu ganks. He does have, a hard CC. He's got the slow. He just has a lot to deal with as an Ornn. And, Ornn winning the 1v1 so far, super impactful. Ornn does that. It's just Ornn things. But the Maokai eventually will be able to heal up. I would have expected him to go back there, teleport back to lane, just take advantage of the reprieve he was earned by a second from the help of his jungler. But for now, just gonna chill, hang out.
Well, you're Maokai, you're a big beefy boy, but you could still be under pressure as Caliber is just going to go straight up and try and finish with the flash up with the flash away. Oh my goodness, Absolute will get away by the skin of his teeth there on that Maokai. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, going flash for flash, I feel is worth. You no longer have to worry about the potential flash engagement coming out from the Maokai with the Nunu gank coming through. Granted, they see Nunu in the mid lane, so they're not too worried about it themselves either. But Ornn will 100% take that, being that he still has a mobility spell, whereas the Maokai just kind of has to walk away from any potential danger.
And you'll see, of course, Ornn already taking that recall with that advantage. Saw that, Maokai, of course, also using the teleport to get back into the lane, so just going to walk right up, take a quick saunter back into the top lane. as quick as you
hold
can
on
go,
that
at least on an
teleport.
orb.
Yeah, I think the potential for a dragon play, if this bottom lane can continue pushing like this, is super duper high. You know, you do need to fight it before the Nunu can. Nunu super good at sniping out early dragons, you know, using the consume, and just is what he's designed for. You know, he's always been that style of champion. So if you can play around it and make sure that you can try and get to it first, then you deny a large portion of what Nunu brings to the table. The problem with that is Echo's terrible at taking dragons, unfortunately. He doesn't have high early game damage, doesn't have high early game tankiness. So he's not a jungle taker. But if you can get him in the bot lane, try and force the Morgana Caitlyn out, you get a TP potentially coming out of your Ornn as well on top of it, and just really force the issue, then now all of a sudden you're on a 4v3, 4v2, 4v1, and you do get that advantage. And so right now we can see the Ornn hanging out by his tower, waiting for the call to teleport in.
You can see already Greenwood are being aggressive on this Draco. They're just going to try and take it, but Van Buren's going to come on the contest. They will not get there in time. That will go the way of Greenwood, but here we go once again. Lao Gong on that Echo, trying to get in, trying to get engaged. Is going to flash away, though. Not wanting anything to do with that Caitlyn, and the chase is on. Sand gets knocked up there and pushed back aside, and no takedowns there. It is a 0-for-0 trade. Greenwood, you know, starting that dragon early. You talked about the advantages on the jungler with that Nunu. Just getting it done.
Yeah, the call never came through for Kellamar to join the rest of the squad. They do sacrifice that first dragon, deciding that they weren't quite as powerful as they wanted to be. Or they thought they weren't going to try and either win the smite steal or potentially take down Nunu before the dragon could go down. So they go for an afterfight. Doesn't quite go either one's way. We are still waiting for the first takedown of the game. But this Volibear just proving already to be super duper strong, you know, making great use of the Sky Splitter to harass Exquisitive, making sure that, you know, he does always have to worry about getting engaged upon, because that Thundering Smash, it used to flip you over. Now it just bonks you on the head and makes sure you're not going anywhere. It is a stun. But, I mean, yeah, look at how much damage it's already doing. The passive arc coming through as well to help clear out these minions. Veigar level, you know, early on, not super good at clearing waves.
Veigar is the ultimate scaling champion, right? You know, sitting in mid lane, just the key with him, just try and survive, try and CS to the best of your ability. You know that damage is coming the longer and longer the game drags out. So if you're Veigar, you're going for the long game here, I think, in this mid matchup.
Yeah, I mean, infinite stacking ability power, thanks to his passive. Every time he lands an ability on an opposing champion, he gets a couple AP. It also... his Dark Matter W scales down as he gets more and more ability power. So there's lots of good there to be had. The portion of his kit that doesn't really have an opportunity this game is his passive on his ultimate that does the bonus execute damage. You know, it doesn't quite have an impact this game. Nobody is going to be really building enough ability power except for maybe the Morgana to make it worth it. But it still does a grip of damage. Like, it still hurts a lot.
Yes, and that is ultimately the key of this game. You know, inflict the damage, earn the takedowns, win the game. As we take a look at this bottom lane here, this could be interesting. Lao Kong, you know, cruising, just setting up in that bush, waiting patiently. And here we go. Flash is going to go right in, and all of a sudden, just 100-0 goes that Ezreal. That'll be the first takedown going the way of Ezreal, just finding that Morgana. My goodness, that was strong.
Yeah, Black Shield only works on one person. Morgana making the call to protect her AD carry, sacrifices herself there, just completely locked down from start to finish. Great use of the Battle Dance and the Parallel Convergence to combo up. And yeah, Devoid walked away completely unharmed. But, you know, first takedown over to the Israel, already stacking up that tier of the goddess, looking to be a monster in a couple minutes.
And that's such an annoying play, right? If you're Greenwood, you know, it's been very even so far. You got the dragon, and then all of a sudden the enemy jungler is just in that bottom bush. You never know the echo's there, and then you just get jumped upon. Really not much you can do if you're the Morgana. I think she makes the correct call in saying, well, I'm just gone. I'm going to try and do everything I can to make sure my AD carry survives. Oh, but here we go. Little sneaky roam there from Prophet, but not able to do too much there. Trying to perhaps, you know, find a leveler in the bottom lane.
It does force the Van Buren bottom lane back to the tower, gives a little bit of breathing room over to Greenwood, you know, lets the Caitlyn continue to build up this, you know, CF's lead that they've now amassed, you know, almost a 30 CS advantage, which that's a lot of money that could be in Slick's pocket that he's just hasn't been able to get to yet. You know, not able to complete that tier. You can see him following up the tier purchase with a longsword. Doesn't actively help the tier builds. It does need a pickaxe, but you know, he's just looking for any kind of damage he can get going right now.
Because this is, of course, the problem. Once that Caitlyn Morgana really gets going, it's so oppressive in lane, right? You know, Caitlyn with that huge range on her auto attacks. Oh, but she's not going to have any range there. She will get jumped on by the jungler and Echo. Impact will ultimately get credit, but here comes the re-aggression. Now Sandhog on that Nunu is going to come down. Warga picks up one, goes golden to try and stay alive, but it will not be enough. Oh my goodness, here we go. Trades coming left, right, and center. Sandhog is going to try and turn around on that Nunu, but it won't be enough. It's a double to the way of Lao Kong on the Echo. Ultimately, 3 for 2 the way of Van Buren. That was all over the place there.
Yeah, I mean, the engage was right. The engage was strong. Lao Kong tried super duper hard to give the credit over to Slick for the Caitlyn. Unfortunately, the disconnect was there. They didn't, you know, take down the Caitlyn fast enough, and so Echo ends up losing out on the takedown credit because the focus just wasn't there. You know, Devoid was almost able to take out the Ezreal before anybody got involved. Slick, you know, barely surviving thanks to Impact taking down Caitlyn quick enough, but had it been a second later, that would have gone super differently. You know, if Devoid goes down second there instead of first, you know, that's one more auto attack, that's one more Piltover Peacemaker, one more, you know, 90 caliber net that Devoid could potentially get off and completely change the landscape of that fight.
A little unfortunate there for Devoid too. You know, you're trying to help your team, you're trying to, you know, ward that bush, and then all of a sudden you just get 3 enemy champions right in your face, and you're a Caitlyn, you know, you just get kind of rooted to the spot. Not too much you can do there, but I think Greenwood ultimately played it as well as they could, right? You know, your AD carry gets kind of jumped early, but I think they inflicted the maximum amount of pain that they could in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, they end up losing, you know, all 3 members down in the bottom side, but, you know, Prophet's able to get the solo onto Exquisite. They end up getting the dragon as well. It's the Ocean Dragon for themselves, so they get a little bit more healing on their side. They open up the Cloud Drake Soul, so they get a little bit more movement speed around these buffs. This is curious. They rotate the map. You know, they don't get the first brick. They just decide to put the bottom side top. Maybe they're going to focus on these heralds now?
I do like this. It is interesting because now all of a sudden, okay, you know, you've had a very even matchup in this top side, right? You know, pretty level CS, you know, no takedowns in that top lane. You know, you have Ornn against Maokai, so trying to just pivot the game here as well. You can see One True Prophet just going right over the wall, and Ornn will go big on that ultimate as well. But there comes Lao Kong saying absolutely no way. Kelmir will not escape either. Lao Kong gets straight out as well. He does earn the double. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, another huge double coming in for Lao Kong. You know, taking the money from the first one, just getting that much stronger. He's able to just completely delete Devoid. Like, absolutely insanely how quickly he was able to take out Devoid. The rest of the team was focused on trying to take down Kelimar on the Ornn. You know, we even saw the ultimate from Prophet come out, and everyone's like, all right, we're going to get the Ornn. 100% fact, we're getting the Ornn. And then Echo just comes flying out of nowhere, takes down Devoid, then recalls back using his Chrono Break, and then re-engages back onto the Morgana as well. And this whole time, you know, True Prophet and Sandhog are trying to do their thing and take down Kelimar, but they just weren't quick enough. They didn't have the time to try and get the takedown before the other two went down and traded out. You know, they just kind of had to, you know, take that L.
Well, all of a sudden, Van Buren ahead on takedowns, slightly ahead in gold, but they are down to Drake, so very level spot still, and that's one of the issues, right, with the rotation of that bottom lane going topside, is all of a sudden, sure, they can apply the pressure, and you can see it here, but, you know, when they get caught out in those fights, you know, you get that Echo to jump upon the two of them, and, I mean, it's just game over.
And it's slowly becoming a problem. You know, as the game progresses and, you know, more gold is coming up and, you know, becoming available, you know, they're going to start taking towers down eventually. You know, these, you know, piles of gold will eventually go to the right spots.
So we're taking a look at our scoreboard along the bottom here. You can see really the only significant, I'll say, CS advantage perhaps in that mid lane, but that's to be expected, you know, once you're Prophet on the Volibear, you know, against the Vigar. You know, this, I'm really looking for the advantage, you know, as we progress into the game, you know, what do you see as the win condition here for each team?
So, Van Buren on the blue side, they're all about these, you know, both teams are about team fighting. They're just team fighting differently. You know, Van Buren has the engage and re-engage potential, you know, using that Ornn Horn to start the fight, the Echo to try and get a pick onto Devoid, and then the Event Horizon to keep Slick and Exquisitive alive, make sure that they don't get, you know, taken out of position. Impact also being able to slip and slide around the team fights, make sure that everybody has a shield and everybody else is charmed up. Whereas Greenwood, again, team fight, team fight, team fight. They have the pick potential in the Maokai and the Morgana. True Prophet's already massive on this Volibear. You know, being able to take down Exquisitive in a 1v1 isn't going to have his ultimate available for the Dragon fight. We saw him blow it a little bit early. But again, they just want a team fight. They want to catch somebody with the Maokai, with the Morgana, follow up with True Prophet and Sandhog just getting down some crowd control, and then have Caitlyn just raining down fire from the backside so that nobody can try and contest. And it looks like they are going to trade the first Cloud Drake for the mid lane tower.
Yeah, and I really like that call there from Greenwood. I think they recognized, you know, Van Buren had rotated all the way over. They had the Rift Herald in their pocket. They said, okay, fine, you know, if you want to go for that, you know, first Drake, be my guest. We're going to take your mid tower. We're going to drop Shelly, you know, have her come cruising down that middle lane, you know, drop the first turret. It's all about trading, right?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, first Cloud Drake versus first Brick, definitely worth it to take first Brick. You know, you lose out the 10% cooldown reduction on your ultimate, but you get so much more movement available in the mid lane. True Prophet can now spend a lot more time roaming around, you know, maybe double ganking with Sandhog. Doesn't need to be stuck in that middle lane, pushing, counter pushing, and, you know, playing that type of game. He can, you know, go help his teammates, you know, take this advantage he's built for himself and try and, you know, use it elsewhere.
We'll see, of course, the impact that Prophet can have on this game. We talked about it, you know, on the top of the show. Perhaps, you know, one of the standout players here for Greenwood. Certainly demonstrating why already 2-0-0 with a huge CS advantage. And look at the damage. That's going to be the ace in the hole dropped there by Devoid, but it will not find the connection. It will, however, force a recall for this Van Buren bot lane.
Yeah, and that's exactly why you don't want to get hit by a Dark Binding in this lane matchup. You're not tanky. You're going to take tons of damage, and you really need to work on using your battle dance, your grand entrance to try and dodge it out and make sure that you don't, have to get forced to recall. We are seeing pings from Greenwood saying that they want to play it a little bit safer, but they could have gotten a bunch of damage onto that tower if they had played a little bit more aggressively, recognized that the recall was incoming and just hard shoved that lane and, done as much to the tower as they could have. They would have forced the Echo off of the Krugs, and so he would have been forced, to stop farming, to, defend the tower, and, potentially, you do bite off more you can get engaged upon by the Echo, but... All right.
Well, here we go. This is one True Prophet coming to the top side, but look at the ultimate for Calamir is going to buy some time. We'll try to stay out of the tower, but it is just not enough. That is the advantage of the tankiness for Greenwood. Look at how many tower shots they take, completely unafraid of the turret.
Oh, that Dark Binding was insane.
Right as I was in the middle of praising the tanks. Morgana, settle down.
I mean, yeah, that's the type of plays you can make when you have 3 damage-dealing tanks. True Prophet, having the Proto Belt with the Lost Chapter and the Sheen following it up. Maokai just has high base damages. He just hurts. And then Nunu shows up. He's got to consume. It does magic damage. Why not? But, I mean, it's so tough to survive an engagement like that. Even after you land all of your crowd control, you dodge some of the opponent's crowd control, and you're still going down, there's no way to deal with that. He could have flashed, but he still would have gone down. It's almost impossible.
Yes, when you have an enemy team that unafraid of diving you there, 3v1 in that spot, tough to handle. And you feel for the Ornn there, but at the end of the day, they lose the tower, lose a life. It's not that big of a deal. They are still, well, I mean, this game's actually still very tight. I can't really say there's a clear leader either way, but
yeah, I mean, we also haven't really seen a true team fight yet. We've seen some skirmishes and things like that, but these two teams haven't 5-on-5 clashed. We don't know the true strength of that 3-man dive in the top side, but with some more damage coming from the bot side. Prophet is playing a little aggressively.
That would be putting it mildly, yes. Just testing out how that Van Buren team might respond there. I thought maybe we were going to see that team fight break out once you get that engagement, but Ornn there dropping down, saying, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 ultimates being burned. Both Volibear and Ornn spending their potential team fight engagements going on. We do get the teleport coming out from Maokai. And just looking at these ultimates, the bottom lane from Van Buren doesn't have theirs versus just Prophet on Greenwood's side. They may have to give this up.
Well, here we go. Borg's going to go golden right away, trying pushing this fight backwards is Greenwood, but they're going to take so much damage already. One True Prophet's on a rampage. He jumps onto Exquisitive, who takes down Vargar. Here we go once again. The Void trying to set up, putting out that DPS on the Caitlyn. We'll see if they go back onto the Dragon. It's so low. Greenwood will pick it up, and now they go right for the team fight once again. A shutdown coming down the order. Oh, the flash from Devoid will actually manage to pick up Echo, and here comes Sandhog on that Nunu. Will just find Slick. Caitlyn's on the triple. Can she go for more? It's a quadra for Devoid.
Yeah, just absolutely massive re-engagement there. We saw Prophet sacrificing himself with that flash charge there. Does end up taking down, Impact, and really sets up the rest of the team fight. Sandhog and Absolute are so tanky. So much crowd control between those two that Caitlyn is able to just run down, spam auto attacks, do exactly what she wants to do, having that slight slow on the Stormrazor as well, just really controlling the second half of that fight. They get the Dragon as well, and a quadra kill for your Caitlyn, who really wasn't feeling that hot earlier in the game. Absolutely huge. Going back to base, spending all that money, 2 items now completed for the Caitlyn. You love to see it.
Yes, that's your formerly 022 80 carry, now on 422, and I think, you know, that's one of the major advantages, right, of having such a tanky frontline like that is, you know, it's hard for this Van Buren team to try and get in and get after that Caitlyn. You know, she can just output that damage from the back, and if nobody can really, you know, step up to, you know, try and take her down, well, she's just going to have free reign over fights, and, well, the Quadra's nice, gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, the front-to-back team fight available for Greenwood is massive. You know, there's so much that needs to be burned through if you're Van Buren to try and, you know, take down the Caitlyn. Unless you're getting a pick with Lao Kong, it is almost impossible to get to her. You have the Morgana, you can name whatever you want. That team is just stacked, and Devoid is going to be able to just hang out for 90% of the game. You know, like I said, as long as he doesn't get caught by the Echo, he can do whatever he wants. He can just hang out and, you know, play League of Legends.
Ultimately, that's what we're doing here, right? You know, hanging out, playing some League of Legends, watching this, you know, game one go down. But here's the other side of it for Van Buren, right? You know, we touched on it a bit earlier. The longer and longer this game goes on, you know, you do have the infinite scaling available to Vigar. How long do you hold out, right? You know, now you have Greenwood on Soul Point. You know, they're certainly going to be going for that, you know, next when it does come up roughly 2 minutes or so. You know, how long can you drag this game out and try and get that Vigar rolling?
It's going to have to happen eventually. Seemingly sooner rather than later, because he's I don't want to say he's your tank buster because he's so cooldown reliant, but like he kind of has to be. Like Ezreal and the Vigar, the two biggest sources of damage. You can't have Lao Kong's Echo focusing the tank. He has to be getting to Devoid, and so, you know, if you can use the event horizon to stall out these big team fights and, you know, try and keep Slick alive and let him chunk people out, you have to get that done for the next 10 minutes or so before the Vigar really starts being an issue. But for now, he is almost, you know, behind. Well, he's literally behind his direct line opponent, but like Vigar as a champion is behind and not really able to do what he needs to do right now because he's missing items.
That's certainly problematic. You know, we see also Greenwood, I think, are clearly playing, you know, for this dragon. It's now going to be coming up in just under 60 seconds. I mean, look at the minimap there. Look at the vision they've established, the pressure they've already put bot side. You know, Van Buren are sort of drawing a line in the jungle and saying, okay, if we're going to make our stand, I really do think they have to try and contest the soul. But here comes Sandhog on that Nuno, is going to try and get after Lao Kong. And a flashback in onto Exquisitive, who's just trying to get away from One True Prophet. He takes the tower as best he can. Is now going to get out of range for it. Ooh, there we go, Calamir. He gets one on the Ornn, but still no good. Lao Kong trying to get onto the Void. Does see it. It's so close. Oh, and Devoid's so low. Green would have to back off.
That was the best chance Van Buren had to win that team fight. They had a 4-man stun come out of Lao Kong's Echo. Absolutely massive. But the Black Shield coming up just in time, keeping Devoid alive, make sure that he doesn't go down. Just, you know, how do you beat that? You guess a 3-man Ornhorn, a 4-man Parallel Convergence. Everybody is there to contribute, and they just didn't have enough damage. You know, Prophet was even tanking tower shots. He was just running through like a madman. And as the Volibear, he gets to survive.
That is perhaps, you know, the advantage of playing this Volibear. You just run in, you find enemy champions, and you know, you try and just beat them down. And well, it works out for Greenwood there. They don't lose anyone in that team fight, and they're just able to, you know, push right back and take that dragon, you know, almost for free. And they're really in a driver's seat now, I think, with that objective control.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on that squad, with the exception of Nunu and Caitlyn, are loving that soul. The bonus move speed once you proc your ultimate, it's going to be massive for Prophet of his own. He can hop a wall, get that bonus move speed, Thunderous Charge right through, and stun up whoever he wants, especially with the Black Shield on top of him. Is not going to be concerned about an event horizon. And even Absolute Ape dropping down the tree line and then just charging at people, he's going to love it. once these team fights break out, we're going to see them zooming all over the map.
Well, Greenwood, they just set up for this Baron take here. And here come Van Buren. They might have something to say about it, but Greenwood are going to get the Baron. But, oh, here we go. Exquisite is going to drop the event horizon, but he's going to get caught out immediately after. One True Prophet is right on top of him. Varga has to go gold to try and avoid this. Here we go once again. The Void on the Caitlyn is just so strong, outputting all that DPS. Slick manages to get a trade, though, onto Nunu. And here we go. Kelmir trying to get away is no good. A double for the Void on the Caitlyn. Here we go. Still Slick trying to get away from One True Prophet. He'll just aggress right back in. Says absolutely no way, Ezreal. That is 4 takedowns the way of Greenwood. They have the Soul, they have the Baron, and they're careening down the mid lane.
Yeah, that was a really awkward fight for Greenwood. Devoid was over the Baron wall, wasn't able to get into the team fight until the very end. Exquisitive and Lao Kong were basically already taken down. Devoid just kind of played cleanup duty there, got a couple takedowns, and just kind of, I wouldn't even say hung out because they weren't even involved for most of the fight. You know, the Baron secured because Devoid was over the wall. Then the team fight breaks out and they don't have their AD carry. It's all up to True Prophet to do the damage that fight, and being able to just hop onto Exquisitive and just run him down and take him out was massive and super impactful in that team fight. You know, making sure that your opposing mid laner is out when that is, you know, one of the strongest champions on the team. That's a one team fight there. And then because Devoid wasn't in the team fight, Lao Kong actually didn't have a target. You know, being this assassin Echo, you need to try and take out a squishy, and the squishiest one is Borga, who has that Zhonya's Hourglass. So they're almost never going to be caught unawares, because as soon as the engagement happens, if they do get taken low, they just push that button and go golden. And there's no longer a fear of being taken out by Echo. So, you know, just by essence of being over the wall, Devoid removed Lao Kong from the team fight.
And that's, you know, a couple of times we've seen Borga on this Morgana, you know, use that Zon is at the stopwatch, you know, in these fights. It could just be so impactful, as you mentioned, because when Echo jumps onto you, okay, you know, you do get that moment of invulnerability. Well, now what do, right? If you're Lao Kong, okay, you know, Devoid's behind the wall, you know, the Morgana is just golden and invulnerable. You can't touch her. It's like, well, you're really going to try and go after these tanks? Such an interesting proposition. And, well, Greenwood obviously using that to their advantage. They did manage to push through and take the middle inhibitor. They knocked down a tower bot side, and they're going to just go for the pick top side. Devoid with the ace in the hole says no way.
Yeah, Devoid's kind of strong. You know, 7 takedowns, 6 before that, Infinity Edge, Storm Razor, Rapid Fire Cannon, even as the QSS for good measure. Doesn't want to get caught out by that Event Horizon or the Parallel Convergence, just complete non-starters now due to the QSS. He's pretty strong. Pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a pretty good day for the AD carry, you know, 7-2-2. You know, especially being, you know, a little bit behind early. You know, we talked about it, you know, before that quadra, right? You know, you're a little bit behind, all of a sudden, okay, you turn around, and there you go. Big team fight wins, you get a couple of items, you start outputting all that damage, you know, your tanks are working for you on the front line, and it's just, you know, you're cruising now. We can see, of course, Greenwood, you know, rotating through. They got some work done on that top tower. They knocked down the bottom inhibitor, and you know, they're just slowly working their way through the rest of this game. And they might even go for Elder next if they have the position for it.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing smart. They're making sure that they don't make any big mistakes. They take that top tower and they take down onto Vigar, and then rotate bottom exactly for the inhibitor as well. You know, giving them that much more pressure. You can see super minions just careening towards that base as the Elder Drake is spawning in 30 seconds. Does give you that finisher damage once you hit 20% of your life bar. And with how quickly these life bars, with the exception of Ornn, because he's so tanky, are disappearing, they're just gonna be that much quicker. When you only have to do 4/5 of the work, you love it. You're just like, all right, I can get the same outcome from only 4/5 as much effort. Why wouldn't I do this every time? But I mean, look at this. There's super minions. There's super minions on the Nexus towers.
Yes, and that's the issue. You can see perhaps the hesitation. They have to defend the Nexus, right? You have super minions on those towers, but they also don't want to concede. The Dragon is one true prophet's just going to go right into the back line. He does manage to pick up one, but he is shut down. It is actually a double for him, excuse me, as he picked up the Vigar as well. Here we go. Van Buren trying to make their final stand, but Borga gets impact. Absolute finds the last one onto Laokong. Orin is the only one left standing. He has to fall all the way back to his base. Greenwood just chasing him down. Here comes Nunu on the snowball. Does get the knockup. Keller trying to flash away, do everything he can to survive. That Orin is so tanky, but against 3, will he make it? Dark Binding from Morgana coming out as well. And that should just about do it here. It is the ace for Greenwood. The towers are gone, and so is the Nexus. Game 1 going the way of Greenwood High School.
Yeah, Prophet's Volibear was actually super clean for day 1. We saw what potentially was a misplay in that bottom side tri-bush, ends up winning them the game. He does get caught out due to mispositioning, but he's able to turn it around with great usage of the ultimate. He gets the double takedown there as well. Super huge, because then it makes it a 5v3. You can see that they end up not even going for the Elder Dragon. They just decide to push the engagement, get as many people down as they can, and they get everybody. They get the ace, and they're able to push on through for the victory there due to the strength of the rest of their team. So like I said, Prophet gets caught out, but because the champion / Prophet were so strong at that point, then it doesn't matter. You just turn it around on them, you end up winning, and it does set up a very interesting pick ban for game 2.
Yes, it certainly does. We talked about Prophet, being, one of the highlight players for this Greenwood squad. And okay, fine, you take away the Zoe, we go back to the ban. I think, the Azir might have been banned out and the Syndra as well. And okay, now you pull out this Volibear, right? Who's, something, you most likely haven't really seen, the rework just coming through today on the champion, and he just goes absolutely mental on it. And the big thing as well at the end was also, getting the jump on the Vigar specifically, right? Because now, if you're Van Buren, you lose all of that potential damage output from the Vigar, in that team fight. It just allows the rest, of the league alpha dogs just come right through and just, steamroll the game through the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a situation we've seen time and time again here. A team goes for a scaling composition, and they're just not given the time. When you pick these like uber late game team compositions, Vigar, Ezreal, Ornn, even to a degree, you do need at least a 35-minute game. That game, I believe, ended at like 32, 33. And unfortunately, the champions that you needed to scale we're actually behind quite a bit. And so I would like to see them pick a quicker draft, a quicker mid laner. Ezreal still works. I understand that we're working within the bands that they were given, but I definitely think you need to pick a quicker mid laner.
Well, we will see the adjustments that both teams make here. Game number 2. It was Greenwood High School victorious in game 1, but guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break. We have game 2 of this best of 3 coming up next here on PlayVS.
I think a lot of students have just gotten another sense of how to belong and how to create relationships outside of what were the traditional avenues.
And a lot of my students talk about how they feel safe in the esports program, and that's their family, that's their community. And I think that esports gives kids a future that they might otherwise not have.
Man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school. Overwhelmingly, the support has been there with, man, I wish that had been available when I was in high school. I guess it was last fall, some of the students were starting to go, hey, can we get a gaming club going? And then word came down that our athletic director was looking for someone to coach esports. And I said, this is something that's right up my alley. I've always been in tune with the geek kids, the geeks, the nerds, whatever. That's my scene. That's what I was in high school. I mean, I've done it all. I've done computer-based stuff. I played World of Warcraft for about 10 years. 360s in the house right now. The main thing that I did to help find interested students is I told all of my classes, if you have friends who are interested, please send them this way, that anybody can join. I'm not gonna limit this. For our first season playing, we have come in at approximately 23 kids. I've got one full League of Legends team. I've got 3 Rocket League teams. That's where we started at, and I'm looking forward to it growing. To get started in this, it was let me learn about the games that are out there. Let me see what I need to figure out, and then I figured out that the kids are going to know more than I ever will. The opportunity for any kid to be skilled at something and be able to have the chance to pass that knowledge on, to look at somebody else and go, hey, I realize I'm not going to be here for more than a couple of years, and we want this team to keep doing well. Let's get your skill up so that you can take my spot. Absolutely, that's part of giving the kids that bit of ownership in the sport. This is the first time we've done this at our school. How much of a legacy do you want to leave? Do you want to be the guy that's helping bring the next generation here at the school along, or are you going to be the one who's like, no, I'm the best and I don't want anybody else to challenge me? When I've got my lead for League of Legends going, okay, we're invading here, I'm marking the point, everybody get here, they're learning how to really work together and develop their skills that they're going to be able to use the rest of their lives. Here's your place where you can come in and be part of a team. Esports gives that kid who is a gamer that chance to be involved in the school and maybe help them develop more school pride than what they've had. They can say, hey, I was part of this, and that they now have the opportunity to letter in it gives them a reason to go out and say, hey, you know, maybe I do want to buy that Letterman's jacket. Maybe I do want to build some memories about high school that will last and be worthwhile. Ultimately, being a coach is opening doors for students to find their way to belong in a school that they don't have through any other means. So let's grow it. Let's make the school a more welcoming place for everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the desk here on PlayVS. I am Perino. I'm, of course, joined by the doctor. And the doctor helped me with this diagnosis here. We saw this game one between Greenwood and Van Buren. Greenwood ultimately finding the victory, through that Volibear, through that Caitlyn. If you're Van Buren, how do you break this down? How do you try and stop them from taking game two?
So you need a quicker mid laner. I said it before the break. I'm going to say it again. You need somebody that comes online quicker. You can't hope for the late game carry. It is always a nice insurance to have, but you also need some way to guarantee you're going to make it that far. The Echo needed a little bit of time to come online. You got the double takedown in the bottom line, which really propelled him forward, but then they handed it right back with that Quadra to the Caitlyn. And at that point, it was too big for her to be shut down. And the Vigar was eventually just an Event Horizon bot, but the Black Shield kind of negated negated a lot of that. We saw comboing that with the Volibear. She was able to just run right through the stun, really give the Vigar trouble. And so I think that you need to pivot. As we head into the draft, I don't think the ban phase was necessarily going to change that much. Maybe you put a Volibear ban out just to, try and prevent any funny business. But pick like an Orianna. Let's see, a Victor. What else are we seeing in mid lane? Corki. Just somebody a bit quicker to come off the line, but still does have some good late game juiciness built in.
Well, we'll see, what kind of late game juiciness we're going to get here is we jump right into the ban phase. Already we have the Taric and the Galio bans. So interesting, for both these squads. We see Van Buren, of course, going back to the Zoe as well. Pretty similar to what we saw initially in the game one ban phase.
Yeah, the team's not changing sides. Ban phase coming along pretty much the same. Taric, we've seen it banned away a lot. It can really enable some really funky team compositions that you don't want to deal with. And there's the Volibear ban. I definitely pseudo expected it. I definitely see a world where it doesn't get banned away and you just try and play into it differently with a different champion. Unless Vigar's first picked here, though, I would imagine Greenwood pick it up. It is Profit's #1 played champion. You can really see them thinking about if they want to pick it. But no, I think the Ornn pick worked out great. It did Ornn things. It was almost impossible to take down in that mid and late game. The Caitlyn not doing tons of damage, and to take the Maokai right back into it, super worth. So much AoE crowd control. They do get the Leona this time, which was banned away game one. This time trading it for the Volibear and Aphelios. Okay, that was banned away second rotation last game. Get Slick now potentially on a stronger, spikier champion.
Yes, and we'll see already the bot lane composition coming out for us. That is Aphelios Thresh here for Van Buren. Ooh. Of course, now Greenwood filling it out on their side too with the Leona and the Jinx. So already we're getting a preview of, what's going to happen down in that bottom lane.
Yeah, Leona Thresh, super common lane. Leona has a bunch of crowd control in her kit. Pre-6, though, Thresh does have the opportunity to interrupt a lot of it. You can play the Zenith Blade. You can be the more aggressor using the Death Sentence to start the engagements before the Leona can. After 6, the Leona can try and swing it back a little bit using the Solar Flare and, engaging on her terms, using that long-range AoE stun to then get the Zenith Blade in. So that's an interesting take there. More mid-lane bans coming out. Azir, Syndra, Echo, Vigar. Potentially banning away that jungle Echo again. It did kind of give Devoid some trouble early in the game, even if it did fall off later on. And if you give them another chance early, maybe they capitalize off it better this time. Maybe they make it, that much further into the mid-game. But Nunu again, super interesting pick for me. It's odd to see him 2 games in a row, let alone, or even 1 game, let alone 2 in a row.
Yes, always an intriguing pick in the jungle there. As we see the response from Van Buren, they're going to go with Annie and Kane. So Kane, very popular at the moment, very, very strong.
Ooh.
And, Annie, a bit more of a classic mid lane pick.
Yeah, I mean, Annie, super safe to a degree, does have big engage, big burst potential, as we all know. And then, like you said, the Kane, spiking in popularity, clears super fast, ganks super fast, depending on which form you get, whether it's the Rost or the Shadow Assassin Kane, both do different things, but they do them very effectively. But the Aurelian Soul coming out for Prophet, not something I would have expected. The champion hasn't been seen basically since they changed him. They changed the way his W works from an active to a just regular spell. So he kind of fell off there. True believers did still play him, though. So if Prophet can truly play this champion, he is disgusting. It's such a strong champion in the right hands. Tons of damage, tons of peel, being able to use that Celestial Dragon Breath to blow everybody away. The just big map-wide stuns that can come out of the champion as well. Huge roam potential, too. I am curious if he's going to be able to get anything off in the face of the Annie. But if he can make it down to that bottom side and combo with Devoid and Bwarga, I don't see a world where Slick and Impact can survive that. It's so massive to be able to get these big roams off.
Yes, it has been, one of the themes, of the latest patches. Really, you see these roaming laners, right? Mid laners coming down to the bot lane. You have junglers coming down the bot lane, and especially, when you're looking to get on top of an Aphelios as well, who doesn't really have that mobility. If you can catch him out, you can get to him, and that's certainly the advantage of a Soul there. But we're going to hop right into it now. This is game number 2 between Van Buren and Greenwood. Van Buren in the blue and Greenwood on the red side.
Yeah, and right off the bat, you can see the teams just kind of 5-pointing it off. Nobody really going for a deep ward. We do get one slight ward there. It doesn't really catch much because it's on the it's far enough away from the wall that it doesn't peek around it to get vision on the Raptor camp. And it does look like the call maybe it looked like it was going to be to try and get a deep ward against Van Buren, but they see Thresh and they decide they don't want to risk it.
Thresh, with that Q there can be very obnoxious, provided he takes it first. I'm assuming he is, but, trying to, hook those enemies and bring them back in. That's not really a situation you want to be level 1, caught in the enemy jungle like that. You see the Thresh there. No thanks.
Yeah, I mean, one death sentence and it's all over. You do just... You don't want to play around with stuff like that. And so I am interested to see who gets the first gank off, Nunu or Kayn. I imagine it's going to be the Kayn, because Nunu does like to farm a little bit, but I think the Nunu's pretty happy with how his game 1 went, that we'll see a similar route and game plan coming out.
You can see already True Prophet, using that Aurelian Soul just to get that poke off as well, can be very impressive. We haven't seen a ton of Aurelian Soul, but as you mentioned, in the right hands can be a very, very powerful champion.
Yeah, and he outranges the Annie ability-wise quite a bit, so he can use it to harass quite effectively without too much worry about getting counter-engaged upon. When you do have a ganking jungler like Kayn, that is going to always be in the back of your mind as a squishy champion. But for now, just constantly shoving the wave. We don't get to see the same, old Rush-style game plan that we used to see out of the Aurelian Soul, where he just burns all of the mana super duper early, recalls to be able to pick up, a mana item. He just simply doesn't have the capability anymore with the way they've changed his abilities.
Can be a bit tough out there for a Soul. We'll see how he manages to do against Exquisitive's Annie. If you take a look over the top side as well, this is the same matchup we saw last time, but I do have to wonder if, if either of these players can find a solo takedown in that top lane. We saw last time, it was pretty much a dead even lane. You know, the Ornn got an advantage early, but then Maokai brings it back. It's just 0-0, and ultimately Greenwood, you know, decided to rotate on their bottom lane. I have to wonder if they do the same thing, but here we go. One True Prophet's going to try to go in on Exquisitive. He does get the stun. Exquisitive flashed away, but is ignited, will go down. That is the first takedown going the way of One True Prophet in the mid lane. Backed up, of course, by the Nunu. And there you go. Yeah. Just like that, Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the gank opportunity from Lao Kong, the counter gank coming in from Sandhog, and really neither jungler was even quick enough for Prophet. Prophet was like, nope, I'm going to go now, I'm going to get this takedown, I'm going to do everything I need to get the advantage in the lane, and, you know, being able to harass the Annie down low enough to then get the all-in with the Ignite, it's going to continue happening. You know, we're going to see that a couple more times as the lane progresses. And that's kind of what happens when you get outranged like this. When you do have this super duper long range harass potential, you're going to see it time and time again because there's no answer to just being outranged. Like, you can't just build an item to gain range on your abilities.
You certainly cannot, as Exquisitive trying to avoid both Sandhog and One True Prophet working their way into the enemy jungler. You know, it's going to get pinked out here, and it's setting up an interesting engagement now as both bot lanes have decided to step up and check out the action, but nothing crazy going on. You know, Nunu will assert her dominance, and, you know, Greenwood trying, I think, to establish position for this first dragon.
Yeah, Sandhog looks like they're already starting it. And no real response starting yet from Van Buren. Kane, it's really tough to outsmite a Nunu. Between smite and consume, it's near impossible. And Kane really kind of has to play just out of his mind to get that steal off. But all right.
Oh. It's going to be a double flasher in the top lane. Absolute Ape trying to get out of the way of that Ornn. Did flash in, try and pop the ultimate as well. So Kelemir feeling himself a little bit there. Does get a good trade-off, I would say, but not able to find the takedown.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, great trade there. Flash for flash again. One small second away from being able to get the takedown was Kelemar. The flash from Absolute keeping him barely alive, even with the brittle proc afterwards. Not, you know, enough damage just yet, but, you know, the thought is now there. You know, the risk potential is there, and it looks like Greenwood is going to recognize that and already swap their bottom lane. We saw an early swap last game where they took the second Drake and swapped up. This time they're doing it after the first.
And I wonder, you know, this time, you know, you're going against, you know, the Thresh of Phelios bottom lane on that Maokai. I wonder how that matchup changes, right? You know, when you go against, you know, the Ezreal Rakan, it's not that bad, but the Aphelios can output tons of damage, especially, you know, with his different guns that he brings out. Of course, you know, could spend all day talking about the different ones, but, you know, that can be, I think, problematic for the Maokai, but we'll see. So far, the answer for Van Buren seems to be, well, we're just going to send the Ornn bot lane to go against it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Van Buren thinks the potential trade-off of, you know, the Aphelios being able to push aggressively is worth the sacrifice of the Ornn. You can already see, or they can already see, that the Ornn can win this fight.
Oh, but he may have a tough time here, as Kelemir is going to be caught out by One True Prophet, who does get the takedown. Sandhog was there for the assistance if needed, but not required, and already One True Prophet coming out 2-0-0 ahead of his laner, coming down, making plays in that bottom lane. It's exactly what we expected to see, and it's exactly what we're getting.
Yeah, we saw a nice play come out from Kelemar, using the Bellows Breath to try and, you know, negate Prophet's stun, but the damage there was just too high. You know, Prophet, you know, having that first takedown, building upon it, you know, a little help from his friends, double teleport coming in.
Oh boy, here we go. Already, it's going to be a huge overrotation for Kelly. He actually picks up 3 and will go right back in, trying to delay Greenwood from contesting this Rift Herald. And Kelmer is going to be tanked down. The damage so much. But here we go. Borgon and Leona is going to go in on him. The Void picks up Kelmer, traded right back out, though. Actually, is Jinx going absolutely massive as the Void on the triple. One True Prophet gets 1. Slick is doing everything they can. Ultimately shut down as 1 True Prophet, but my goodness, Greenwood, they come out and they take that team fight.
Full house coming out for Greenwood. They do lose the Herald over to Van Buren, but I don't think they're ever going to feel that was worth. Even if we're able to get first brick with the Herald, which it's looking unlikely with how quickly this top tower is going down, you still lost everybody. It was a, what was it? Was it 2 for 5?
2 for
1 for
5?
5? It's super not worth, because you've now given, you know, multiple kills to the carries of Greenwood. You know, we saw how dangerous Devoid can be once he gets a lot of money in his pocket, and Prophet's already shown quite some knowledge about this Aurelian soul. You know, being able to output, you know, enough damage when he needs, landing crucial crowd control, making some fantastic roams that, you know, right now he's not looking so hot, but he's got that row. He's pretty tanky.
He is tanky, and Kelmir on that Orin, not able to do enough for the takedown. It was an advantageous position for Kelmir. He did get right on top of him, but, you know, tough to handle there, as, you know, we can see both teams sort of positioning in the spot lane river here. We expect to see perhaps another fight breaking out over this dragon, as Van Buren will stack the Pixel Brush. Oh boy, this could be interesting. They're just going to go right in. Kane's going to jump in, Long Cow, on that dragon. And Greenwood backing away from it. Not really able to contest, and, well, just like that. Oh! Are you kidding me, Jinx?
Oh, no!
Oh! Oh my goodness. That is absurd. I don't even have words.
You hate to see it, but Van Buren, they made all the right moves. They did everything correct. They still end up losing out in the end, unfortunately. But sometimes that's just League of Legends, right? Like, they made the smart decision to pop the Herald mid, force a response there, or else the tower goes down, rotate everybody then over to the dragon, and it looked like it was theirs. There was no reason to think that that was not theirs. The first brick goes down in the top side to Absolute on the Maokai, though, so you feel kind of bad you don't get that, but you're like, whatever, we'll get the dragon. It's worth a trade. We used the Herald effectively. We used it how it's supposed to be used. And then the Super Mega Death Rocket just comes flying in, 73 HP left on the dragon, and just poof, everything falls apart. But that's a mental breaker. That is tough to deal with.
And if you're Devoid, you're laughing all the way to the bank, right? I mean, you're just, you know, you're ripping that rocket out there. Just, okay, let's see if this is enough, and it's timed to perfection. I mean, it's hard to even really describe, you know, just how demoralizing that is for Van Buren. I don't know how they get back into it now. They did everything right, and just, you know, have it taken away is just cold. It's cold.
Yeah, I mean, another issue that they're gonna be hitting pretty soon is that they still have base Kane. We're 13 minutes into the game. Kane has effectively, well, he actively has 0 KP. You know, hasn't been involved in any takedowns, and is not even remotely close to getting to a transformation. Absolute going massive in the bottom side, picking up the solo takedown onto Slick's Aphelios. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Things are looking super duper tough for Van Buren right now. And I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
That is the way it seems to be shaking out, but things can change very quickly. Of course, all it takes is one big play, one big opportunity to turn it all around. But Greenwood, you know, looks like they're going to be trying to just shove it right down mid here. You know, you have that Maokai, you know, splitting on the bot lane tower. They're going to draw the attention middle, and you know, if you're Van Buren, what is your plan at this point, right? Because, I mean, you're clearly behind, but, you know, how do you think, you know, how do you try and, you know, reset and try and get back into this game?
Right now, you need to win the game around your objectives. You have Annie, Ornn, Aphelios. Like, those are all huge team fight champions if you take the beginning of the fight. It's very easy for them to get into a bush and potentially pick one or two people. It's, you know, something Annie excels at, being able to have that stun charged up and just drop the tibbers on people. Aphelios, with the right setup, can just melt people. We've seen it before. If you get like red-white and then pop your Q, you just get an untold amount of chakrams to just spam out. And so you kind of need to wait for your chance. You do need to continue giving up a lot, but...
Oh, here we go. This is not good for Kelimir, who just gets jumped on by everyone. Devoid ends up with the credit, but look at Slick go on Devoid. He's going to try and get it to go, but Slick just bullied in. Kane gets a shutdown on a Jinx, and that is a huge advantage there. Exquisitive gets a trade down on the Borga, and a flash away from Sandhog. He's just going to try and stay alive. Slick doing everything possible to try and pick it up, but it's no good. Absolute trades it out. So aggressive there. True Prophet takes down Laokong, and away we go. Exquisitive flash over the wall, wanting nothing to do with it. One True Prophet follows on the flash himself for the double. Impact, the only member remaining for Van Buren, and just like that, Greenwood High School, they rock that team fight.
Yeah, another big fight where there just wasn't enough damage focused at the right targets from Van Buren. You know, the two tankiest members of Greenwoods are the ones that survive once again. All the squishies went down, but Maokai, again, does a good amount of damage between his base damages and that Balmy Cinder. And then the Aphelios is just constant damage. You know, along with just the crowd control that they all bring, it's absolutely absurd. If you can't respond damage-wise just because you're crowd controlled, it doesn't even matter how tanky they are. You know, we saw how long Sandhog was able to survive just because of the amount of crowd control that Greenwood was able to layer on top of each other. Slick having to bob and weave and blow all of his summoner abilities to even be involved in the fight was, you know, really difficult as a marksman to really try and carry the fight. You know, Devoid played super aggressively, ends up going down because of it, thanks to the Laokong Slick combination. But I mean, there just wasn't an option to go the other way with it, you know? Slick didn't have that same kind of assistance once it got going. You know, he was kind of left on his own once Laokong went down.
So we see Borga there on the Leona. Maybe overextending a little bit, almost got caught out there, was able to avoid going down, though, as we see the Rift Herald being dropped to the bottom lane. And, well, here comes the answer. Laokong's going to try and go in on one True Prophet. They, on Van Buren, try to do everything they can, but look at the turnaround on Aurelion Sol. He's going to go big. He's going to go massive. Ultimately shot down, though, by Thresh. Here we go. Borga picks up Slick as well. Exquisitive then trades it right back out. Van Buren barely managed to go 2 for 1 there. They do hold the turret successfully, but it is Devoid who will take the mid turret instead.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how low everybody from Van Buren got in that team fight. And it was just the two members of Greenwood already. It was just the mid laner and the support. Borga, you know, doing as much as he can. Prophet surviving for super duper long. The only reason Laokong was able to survive was because he procced his ultimate at just the right time, dodging, you know, the Dragon's Breath from Prophet. And, you know, nobody else went down in, for Van Buren. But, I mean, you had the numbers. That should have been a clear victory for you guys. But, you know, thankfully, they now have the transformation from Lao Kong. They have the Rost on the field. Now they have that much more CC in their kit. They have the knock-up. They have percentage health damage. They have a very, survivable jungler now. They don't need to worry too much about him just getting popped. So that is one step closer to getting everything they need. Now they do need to continue to set up around these objectives, see if they can get a great bushwhack off. Take advantage of all the crowd control they have. If they can catch somebody unawares, then they can just, CC them into oblivion and make sure that the fight's their advantage.
And we saw that just before that fight broke out too. The Vargas Leone, just kind of stepped up into the jungle, establishing some vision. All of a sudden that Thresh Q comes out. You've got a couple people waiting there in the bush. Aphelios, outputting all the damage, and and you go from a full HP bar roughly down to a quarter. So I agree. I think if you can catch someone out, you can force the issue. The problem, of course, is it's not easy with this Greenwood team. They every single time it seems they've had the answer for Van Buren.
Yeah, and Greenwood actually has an excellent ward game as well. As the dragon's spawning in a minute and a half, we can see multiple members venturing into the enemy jungle, trying to get some deep wards down, trying to clear out some vision. We do see them standing on a ward. None of their sweepers are available, so they're not quite, getting ready there. But, now we see Devoid potentially overstaying.
Ooh, and this could be an issue, but he's going to put the damage onto Kelmir. He's going to try and step up, but immediately Devoid is going to call in for some reinforcements. And they're just going to try to aggress upon the issue. Impact there. He's just going to get caught out. Oh, but that's a big ultimate from the Thresh. He's going to try and catch everyone out. Longtail trying to pick up Devoid, but he can't do it. Flashed away is Devoid. And there we go. Longtail actually picked up Sandhog. Devoid trying to do everything possible to get away. But look at the impact from Lao Kong. One True Prophet's going to pick up Exquisitive for the double. It is an even trade, but we saw there just how impactful the Cane. My goodness, Lao Kong went huge.
Yeah, that was exactly what we needed to see out of Van Buren. They caught somebody who was overstepping their bounds. They got a summoner spell out of it, and then, the re-aggression coming up from Greenwood was actually punished by Van Buren quite effectively. We saw the two-man stun come out of Exquisitive. Lao Kong was able to get to Devoid, forcing out a quick flash at that point, forcing everybody to try and either fall back and defend Devoid or let Devoid try and win that 1v1 on their own, which they're not going to. They're not that far ahead that they can 1v1 the enemy jungler in a quick manner. I'm sure eventually they'll go down, but it's still a long time that you have to deal with it. And so it took a while for Prophet to get involved in the fight, and as the strongest member of his team, he needs to be there much quicker.
So he gets already Greenwood. They're just going to step up and take that dragon that is the soul for them. So a huge objective play there for Greenwood, as they're going to try and press the issue immediately. Just roaming through this bot side jungle, waiting to make the play.
Yeah, giving up the Ocean Soul is super rough to see. It is one of the strongest souls, which, really all the souls are strong in their own right.
Oh, but here we go. Here's the answer, perhaps. Hey, look at that. Keller's going to go big on that orb, popping in the ultimate. Aphelios is going to earn the shutdown. But here we go. So many low HP bars on Van Buren's side. Can they stay alive? They're so close to getting dropped. Slick trying to do everything. It is an even 2 for 2, but Greenwood just pressing the attack. You can see Devoid. Oh, a great sidestep by Slick there. Will just be enough to get away. And here we go. One True Prophet will pick up Kelmir. Or excuse me, that's Devoid. Sandhog gets Slick. The bot side turret will fall. And oh no, Van Buren, they're in trouble now.
Yeah, once again, great start to the team fight. Van Buren catching everybody as they needed to. Multiple 3-man crowd control abilities connecting and landing, really setting up a strong team fight for Van Buren. But they started at 5v4, And just like I was saying, Prophet needs to be there for his team because he is the strongest member and needs to be there from the beginning. They actually catch him, and it's Devoid who's not there at the beginning of the fight. But because even after all the crowd control connects and does its job, there isn't enough damage coming out from Van Buren to start, negating multiple members from Greenwood. And so everybody, damage-wise, survives from Greenwood. Lets Devoid have enough time to come over and start making use of that Runan's Hurricane, and they turn the team fight again. They do kind of a tower dive a little bit, but they break the base open. That's the first inhibitor tower going down, and now it opens it up for potential Baron as they're roaming around, or they can just put the Maokai back down there, continue that split push game that we've been seeing out of him all game long, forcing awkward fights, and force Greenwood to make use of this Ocean Soul that they have.
And that Ocean Soul, so critical for your frontline units. So, just being able to naturally get that health regen, right? When you're in these massive team fights, and the HP bar starts to go really low, just that extra maybe half second of staying alive can mean all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I mean, one more rotation of spells, one more set of auto attacks, they all can change the tide of battle.
Ambitious there from Calamir. Ambitious,
Bold.
I like it.
Just keeping them on their toes. You hear the Oran Horn and you're like, oh no, something's happening to me. I'm in danger. But that time, it was a warning shot. That's what that was.
Just deciding to let Greenwood High School know that they are still subject to the Ornhorn and the CC that comes with it, so keeping them on their toes, perhaps, as we see Greenwood now, setting up around this Baron, trying to, establish some vision, zone everyone off. And it's tough here for Van Buren because it's, as we saw already, that, that tower down, on their bottom lane, their inhibitor's wide open. You can see, the minions from Greenwood. They're already at the line of the base, so tough to come up and defend this Baron take when you can already see that minion wave crashing in front of your inhibitor.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Oran Horn just yet, so there's no go button for Van Buren just yet.
But here we go.
Oh no!
All right. Nuna's going to go in impact. Oh, no! Absolute Ape will win on an exquisite if it is traded out. One True Prophet gets one as well. Here we go on that Aurelian Soul. It is the double. And the, oh my goodness, triple for One True Prophet. Half of that Van Buren squad. I saw HP guards go from 100 to 25 in about a second. That is obscene.
Yeah, I mean, once again, just an absolutely amazing fight start from Van Buren. They delete Devoid. Everybody else is so low. You can see the Prophet's not even fully healed back up yet. But the counter engage that's able to come out from Greenwood is equally as impactful. Everybody's so tanky. They have this Ocean Soul to keep their health bars topped off. Every time they connect with something, they heal up. And, even Slick, who is just trying his heart out, isn't doing enough damage just yet.
And here we go. Another big team fight's going to break out. Borg is actually going to take down Slick on that Aphelios, and this could be the end of this here. One True Prophet going absolutely huge. Impact just trying to run, will not get away. It's a double for One True Prophet. It's an ace for Greenwood, and that should just about be the game.
Yeah, I mean, they risked it all on one final team fight there. Taking advantage of that 5v4, they do get another decent engage off. The counter engage from that Leona, though, super huge. I mean, how do you compete with that much crowd control? It's difficult on a good day. And when you fall a little bit behind on items, it can just feel that much harder. Like when you do have Leona that's ahead of you, you feel super crushed because it's just constant, never-ending engagements. And we saw some really great plays coming out from Van Buren. Time and again, they were catching Greenwood off guard with just massive 3, 4-man, 5-man engages. But unfortunately, they just couldn't burn anybody down fast enough. And, because of that Ocean Soul, they're healing up so quickly. Even the grievous wounds just simply wasn't enough. But, Van Buren really tried. They played their heart out, and they were looking to do as much as they could.
Yes, they did everything in their power, but it was not enough. It will be Greenwood High School taking down your Arkansas state title here. And unfortunately for Van Buren, they don't get the double up today, but they will go home with a Rocket League title. So they do have something in their back pocket as we take a final look at the stat sheet here for game number 2.
Yeah, you can just see how big Profit was again in this game too. We saw game 1 is on the Volibear, brand new pick, not something that probably a lot of these players have experience with. But game 2, they try and ban him out again. This time they ban the Volibear. They leave the Vigar up, maybe expecting him to pick that, but decides to just go all out, picks up the Aurelian Soul, nuking those damage charged. Look at how far ahead of everybody in the game he is. Just really taking control of that game, playing super duper safe. Even when he got caught out, was tanky enough to not go down. And just, crazy scoreline to boot. You love to see it.
Yes, always feels good to be on top of the damage charge, especially when you're breaking out, a pocket pick, perhaps, something like Aurelian Soul, which you don't see a ton of, but still, it was really 2 of these, unexpected picks that we got from One True Profit, right? He went massive on the Volibear in the first game, monstrous on the Aurelian Soul in the second game, and it's like, what do you do? If you're Van Buren, you banned out the Zoe, the Syndra, the Azir, and it's like, how much further can you go?
Yeah, they really banned him as best as they could. They tried to pick against him as best they could, but it's tough. When you have a well-rounded laner that can take as many bans as you can throw at them, it really does become difficult to combat unless you can do it on the Rift, because pick ban phase is only half the game. You can spend all 5 bans against a player, but if they have a 6th champion, you still need to beat it on the Rift. So it can be very difficult to try and do something about it.
It certainly can be, as we are looking to line up an interview here. I do think we will be getting One True Profit in just a moment, so hold on with us for just a second. We'll get that young man in here shortly. But yeah, the other thing that I was really impressed by Greenwood as well was their objective control in both games, really, asserting their positions, on the Dragons, on the Barons when they decided to go for it. I really think they did a nice job of establishing the vision, working those rotations through, and just really saying, we're going to win the game by taking the objectives.
Yeah, and it comes down to the vision control that they had. When you get vision around the objective, it lets you make more informed decisions about wanting to either take or give up the objective. Time and again, we saw multiple control wards around whatever they were deciding to take. Even in that game too, when they decided to give up the dragon, everybody full gave up. They're like, we're not contesting it. We're going to go push the lanes out, farm up, keep getting gold in our pocket. And, they're like, once the dragon goes down, we're not going to have a team fight for a little while. So they're like, you know what? Just spend the Jinx ultimate. Send it towards the dragon. If we get lucky, cool. If it doesn't happen, it's not that big a deal. We don't need it right now. We're not planning on counter engaging the dragon. We're not planning on trying to take them down, and clean up the dragon. We're either going to get it or we're not. It's not a big deal. It's Cloudric. It's 10% cooldown reduction on our ultimates. Just do it. And so they end up coming away ahead because of it. But they were fully aware that they didn't need that dragon. They made smart decisions around it and planned accordingly.
That Jinx play was so absurd. It was like when you seen, when you felt that Van Buren High School, they they made the right play. Okay, they're around the objective. They're going to take it great. And then you just see this rocket from Jinx from, way deep in the jungle over on the bot side just come and take that dragon. It's very difficult to describe, but phenomenal play, very well executed by Greenwood. As you mentioned, just, sort of a boom or bust play, and it worked out for him. Sometimes things just break your way. Broke for him there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you put in the work, it eventually comes back, right? And because of everything that they were setting up around the map, they were getting their players ahead, they were getting control. And so they were able to just reap the rewards of the work they did in before then. And it does look like we do have Prophet available with us today. How you doing today, man?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. Just feeling good after that.
Yeah, once again, congratulations on your victory here on PlayVS. Tell me about this matchup that we had. We saw an interesting pick in game number 1. Working on the Volibear. Tell me a little bit about the work you put in to try and get that champion to play out, because it's not something we expected here on the desk.
Yeah. No. So this morning consisted of trying to figure out whether Volibear was even allowed to be played, because we weren't sure about the rules on that. But then I set an alarm, for 7 o'clock as soon as the patch came out. Started spamming Volibear games all day. AP Volibear, it's good to go. And then we picked it game 1, and then it was free money from there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a new champion. Like you said, you didn't know if it was even going to be allowed. Did you have a game plan if it wasn't, even after spending all day spamming picks?
Yeah, so I didn't even think about the idea of Volibear until I was running over draft plans with a friend the night before. We said, what about Volibear? And I played Volibear that morning, so up until the night before, Volibear wasn't even thought of.
That's awesome to hear, and I love the foresight you put into it. Tell me, Jackson, a little bit, about your program there. What goes into the work, behind, having a great team? Obviously you guys played super well today, but tell me a little bit about the work and the practice that goes into making a great team like this.
So the biggest thing that we've had to deal with across, especially with current events today, is just communication and putting in the work, putting in the practice hours. But if your team isn't on the same page, you're not going to win. But I think today we really showed that. We put in the practice, we put in all these games together, and we've got the communication skills. And that's what really won it for us today.
All right, and so if you had to pick an MVP, not yourself, for your squad here in the Grand Finals playoffs, who would you pick?
Absolutely, Riley. I think in the bot lane, Devoid really popped off, got that Quadra game 1, had a almost penta that didn't quite work out in game 2, but really just a lot of options. Did what ADCs do best. They just sit back and right-click.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was the Aurelian Soul that took that 5th kill of the game too.
No, no, that can't be it.
We'll have to check the VOD on that one. But once again, congratulations, Jackson, and good luck to you in the future. It was great watching you play today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Once again, that was the Greenwood High School mid laner One True Prophet joining us in the post game there. But I love the dedication. Did you hear that? Setting the alarm this morning, knowing the patch is going live. Okay, I want to work in Volibear into the mix. I love that level of dedication.
Yeah, what's crazy is that, like he said, they didn't even know if the champion was allowed. A lot of times there are competitive bans on, new champions being released. And so, taking that into account to then also just spam the champion, super huge, coming in with essentially a brand new game plan, right? Like, you need to play around a brand new champion, 4 new abilities per se, 4 new interactions, and how to play, fit that into your standard game plan. Even if they were playing solo the Volibear to make sure that they knew the pick, you still need your team to be able to follow up on it.
And absolutely, that's another point that Jackson touched on too, is the communication, right? You have to work together, you have to play together, and I really do think, and he mentioned it as well, the effort really showed. They had great teamwork all around. They, put in the work beforehand to make plays, and that's what it takes. at the end of the day, it really is, the one thing that I respect the most about these young players is, the work ethic and the grind and the dedication to get to this point. We talk about it a lot, but that's, some insight there as to what that actually entails. And I just love that. As a competitor, you love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great that these players are being given these opportunities to display that type of work ethic and that type of, dedication. And, that is all thanks to PlayVS being able to have this outlet available.
Yes, absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, that will just about do it for us here on the desk. If this is something you think is really awesome and really cool, check the links below the video here on Twitch. Go to playvs.com. That is PLAYVS.com. You can check out, registration options for the fall. Talk to your teachers, talk to your parents, talk to your administrators. This is a really fun project, and we encourage as many young students as we can to get in on this. And that will just about do it. Again, we have more action here today on PlayVS, so we're going to be taking a break, but we will be back later. We're going to have more Rocket League and more League of Legends, this time from the state of Texas. I'm Perino. That is, of course, my amazing co-host, Mike the Doctor. We will catch you guys in a little bit. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.